we're seeing Labour and business wanting the president to provide concrete details on his economic reconstruction and recovery plan. Let's discuss this now. I'm joined by economist Duma Gqubule. Duma, good morning and thank you very much. I mean, for the first time, like in quite a long time, we see COSATU and business saying, yes, we need action. But this has been asked before of the governing party, of President Ramaphosa. What difference should we expect tonight?
Dan, we've had an incompetent response to this crisis on the economic side and the public health side. Now, on the economic side, we had the government said they're having a stimulus of 500 billion. According to my calculation, the stimulus was only about 120 billion rands. So the first thing I want the president to acknowledge is to tell the truth to South Africans that the 500 billion rand stimulus did not materialize. Treasury cancelled the stimulus, and the exact stimulus was around 120 to 130 billion rands. That is about 2% of GDP. In many Asian countries, I've been following them very closely because they've been really successful in terms of saving lives and saving livelihoods. They've had 4-5 stimulus packages in South Korea, in Singapore, and many of these countries have managed to bring the virus under control and provide support to the economy. So we have provided very little support to households and firms, and what I need to see in the State of the Nation address is more support given to households and firms during 2021, because this is going to be a very difficult year for the economy.
And that additional support, in your view, what form should it take?
Well, we've seen, they say you must go, the mantra of global stimulus packages, you must go big, you must go early, and we're very late, and we must also go households. So the support, as you saw in the United States and you saw in many countries, we must extend those social relief of distress grants for another year, and we must also maybe introduce the caregivers grant, reintroduce it, and provide support for another year. And I believe that, I've done the calculations, it costs about 70 billion rand a year. So I think we should start with providing support to households, and then after that we must provide support through the UIF to people who are retrenched. It was really sad, Dan, that we had this soft lockdown since December, but the government didn't want to provide support to the people who are temporarily unemployed during the latest soft lockdown in the hospitality industry. And then the third thing, we have to provide support to companies that require support to keep their operations open. So that is the template that has been. It's nothing, we mustn't reinvent the wheel. That is what happens in countries throughout the world. We've seen huge stimulus packages, 25% of GDP in the United States. In South Korea, last time I looked, it was about 16 or 17% of GDP. And ours pales into significance in terms of, the world average then, in terms of stimulus package was about 16% of gross domestic product. And the direct government support in terms of the stimulus was about 9% of gross domestic product. Our government support was about 1% of gross domestic product. So I would like to see in the stimulus, in the State of the Nation address, the government saying that we're going to shelve our plans for more austerity, because austerity will make the situation worse, and they will provide more economic support to the struggling economy.
Now, in the past, when government has been asked for additional support, it has said it doesn't have any money.
Well, that is not true. The government's understanding of how the economy operates is really suspect. We've seen news that the cash that government has is 380 billion rands. That would easily fund a stimulus, and they could provide funds from that. The Unemployment Insurance Fund has got surpluses of about 100 billion rands after paying about 57 billion rands to people who are temporarily employed. The government employees pension fund is overfunded. We've got 800 billion rands of foreign exchange reserves. We can borrow from the Reserve Bank. The Reserve Bank must provide more support to the government to fund the stimulus, and the Public Investment Corporation must also provide support. There are many sources of financing for a proper stimulus in this country, but the government has been tone deaf to concrete and well-costed alternatives that have been provided by civil society organizations. And they are listening to a very narrow group of economists who are providing the advice. And I think the president must cast the net wider and listen to a broader group of people alternatives as to how we can get our economy growing. And I just have to say one thing. If you look at the president's track record over the last 3 years, it is dismal in terms of the economy. I'm talking about the pre-COVID period and the post-COVID period in terms of the economy. And there is no way out of this crisis, Dan, without injecting new money into the economy. Because by definition, a recession means there is not enough money in the economy. And the recovery plan does not specify, as the Thabo Mbeki Foundation said, it doesn't have any numbers, doesn't have any detail as to where these new resources will come from.
Thank you very much, Duma Gqubule, for your insights ahead of tonight's State of the Nation address.